We'll begin the Planning Committee meeting. It's 1:01 o'clock, if that makes sense. We'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Excuse my voice here this afternoon, a bit froggy. We have, I believe, one item that's up for public hearing this afternoon, I believe. And so the process for that one item that is up for public hearing is that we will swear in individuals who wish to testify either in favor or against that public hearing, that notice that's up for a public hearing. Give people an opportunity to comment. After that, we'll close the public hearing, and then what we'll do is open it up to council representatives on the committee for questions, and then we'll open up to all council for questions, and then we'll repeat that process this evening at 7 o'clock and ask people to comment at that time during the public hearing. Excuse me, after that public hearing, we'll make a recommendation. That is, the committee will make a recommendation to all of council, either in favor, against, or to table an item. So that's the procedures, and those are the way we do our business here. If there's anyone wishing to speak, though, if they could be sworn in at this time by a representative from our law department, please stand, and if someone could please swear in anyone that wishes to speak.
Hi, if you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you want to approve the minutes when you get a chance?
Sure. Okay, very good. The first item that's up for a public hearing, give me a second. Okay, ordinance designating an area and or near East Market Street as the East End Community Entertainment District pursuant to sections 103 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron. Mr. Antonucci,
Thank you, Mr.
please.
Chairman, committee members. IRG Realty Advisors, LLC, has applied for Community Entertainment District designation for over 80 acres of property within their East End development. IRG maintains that the CED designation is necessary to help fully develop their Phase 4 of their plan, which includes the retail, food service, and entertainment portions of the project. Community Entertainment District designation for East End would create a pool of 15 new D5J liquor licenses for food serving establishments within the area, which is the maximum number allowed. A D5J license must be located within a CED, cannot be transferred outside of the district. They're applied for the same way as any other D5 liquor license is applied for, and all other normal liquor permit requirements apply. IRG has demonstrated tremendous success so far in developing East End into a true live, work, and play district. The CED designation will go a long way to help attract new establishments to serve the residents and workers of this and surrounding neighborhoods. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional, of the, I guess we'll call this a petition for the East End to establish a community entertainment district. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone here wishing to speak in favor? Anyone? Okay. Very good. Is there anyone wishing to speak against this proposal? Anyone against? Okay, very good. We'll now open it up to questions or comments. I would just like to say at this time, having seen what IRG has done from the beginning. Whenever we had invested, not only the city of Akron, but the county and the state, and I believe the federal government as well. This represents over $200 million of investment into the east end of town, and it was in an effort to retain the jobs here at Goodyear. And this now, what we're able to see here is added value in terms of that investment. And what this brings is a vibrant area over there, which we have been kind of preparing that side of town for. If you look at all the improvements on East Market Street and what's been done there, the success of the hotel over there, all the jobs that have been coming. This is a safe landing for the business community, as well as renters and those that they've developed, I believe, 80 units, and there's another, I don't know how many.
Another 60 to 70 units will be developed.
Okay, over and above the 80 that they've already developed, and that's high-end rental units. So we're seeing that investment as well. So this is a tool that could be utilized by the developers to enhance even more the investment that we've seen in that particular area. So any other questions or comments at this time? Oh, Samples? Oh, go ahead. Ms. Samples and then Mr. Malkovich.
I'm reading through section 1. If you can give me a little clarity. I'm trying to read how it talks about the point of origins and point being from the eastern corner of intersection of Case Street, River Street, and I'm looking at the map. So are we just talking about the boundaries around there, or will it encompass, was it Case Street, River Street, Cook, Fuller, 2nd, 3rd, and Kelly Avenue?
These will be for the boundary that's on the map, that the gray shaded, if you have that map. It's just for the properties within that. It's the IRG-owned properties just within that area.
It's approximately 80 acres.
This is about 88, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Malkovich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I am in full support of this project. I think it is fantastic. I'm excited for this designation that we're trying to do here. The East End development is a connector from the East Akron to downtown. And I don't know if you guys ever had the opportunity to go to the theater. It is phenomenal, and we've been getting some huge national acts, and the restaurants are coming, and with the apartments. There's a synergy happening there on the East Akron, and it's only going to flow into the rest of the city. So I'm in full support, and I want to thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Mr. Swirsky.
You just want to back up a little and explain what an entertainment district is. I mean, I got some of the description here.
I thought we
In general,
did.
yeah.
Right. Well, essentially what you have is there's only so many liquor permits that are permitted. These type of liquor, D5J permits or D5 permits that are permitted in a city, and it's based on the population. We're pretty much maxed out, so there are no other liquor permits essentially available. We have this same designation for downtown. There's actually 2 downtown. So what it does is provides 15 more that can be applied for. They have to be applied for. They're not just given to anybody.
I think there's something to be said, though, for the fact that this is for on-site consumption only. This is for restaurants.
Right, it doesn't
areas.
mean that, yeah, it's not you can't
It's
have
not
open
for on-site,
containers,
off-site
there's
consumption. There's a difference. No open container. There's a specific difference here. And the 2 we have currently is there's the one for downtown, and the one for the north side, correct?
Right, there's actually two downtown, the north end and south end.
Right, correct. And so there's a specific difference. And also, there's a checkoff from the state of Ohio as well in terms of these, obviously. So it's a specific type of licensure that is requested.
So how many are going to be restaurants and how many are bars?
Well, it depends on what they end, you know, who ends up
What you end
applying
up
for
doing.
these, yeah.
But
it
there's
could be-
no, is there any language that limits the bars versus the restaurants, or?
I believe in most of these D5J, there is a food service part to that, I believe,
A food service bar?
that you have to have food for the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
for
right
that
now,
D5J.
right now, IRG is planning where B&W is going to come in right at the entrance of the building. They're going to have a food service as well as a bar right there where the old Goodyear headquarters was. So that'll probably be the first license, as well as they are going to plan an additional hotel behind the existing hotel. That'll be the second license. Where the bank was on the corner, they're looking for a restaurant there. So there's going to be multiple areas where these will be used. These licenses, will be used.
Anything else? No. Ms. Amovian?
Well, I've been to the building and I just love it. I saw the apartments. They just blew me away. At that time, the downstairs wasn't ready. So the downstairs of the building where the apartments are, the building is going to eventually become a part of that entertainment. That's what a theater is, isn't it?
It's included in the entertainment district, correct? Whether they have an actual restaurant in that building or not, you know, they're still planning that out on the first floor.
Right, because they were talking about that when I went for my tour.
Yes.
And the other hotel, I know where the Hilton is. Where's the other one going?
Actually, it's actually right behind the Hilton.
Right behind the Hilton?
I don't know what the flag is going to be for that hotel, but that's what the plan is right now.
Is
So
it
there will be-
behind it or across that vacated street?
Actually, behind it, the last I heard. They're going to vacate the street in between the hotels, or
Okay.
right behind it to the north
Okay.
of that Hilton Garden, and the next hotel would sit there.
And it'll become what? What kind of hotel? Who's doing that? You don't know?
I don't know what the flag is. They're looking at a couple different flags right now for those hotels, so.
Well, anyway, I'm just excited about that whole area when I go drive through there. It is unbelievable what they've done. And I've been to several groups that have had activities at the Hilton Garden, and it's been phenomenal as well. I would like to have my name added to this, Mr. Chair, and I would assume that Mr. Mikovich would want his name added as well, but I'm not sure. I won't speak for him. But
Sure.
I would like to have my name
Mr.
added.
Clerk? Further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may
Yes.
just add one thing that may be helpful for this body to consider as well. In addition to granting the designation of the area as a community entertainment district, this body also has the ability to take that away. So basically, in granting the designation, you're creating the pool of potential new permits that can be applied for through the state, but eventually, too, by ordinance or resolution, the body could also undo that designation and take those back. So just something to consider.
Very good, thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Malkovich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. There's one thing I also want to mention, too, is the sports aspect of it also. Mr. Otto Orff, the legendary soccer player, on his side over there, that's where they have a lot of sporting events, indoor soccer, basketball. And just this morning, I was getting ready to come down here. They're doing promotion of over there that the Cleveland Crunch, former players, they're going to go over there. So we, not only are we a musical venue, we're also a sports venue. So I just want to mention that. And sir, if I may have my name added to that, please.
Thank you. Anything else? Samples?
It's a quick question. So on the corner of Market, North Martha, and Kelly, where there's like the diamond shape, and there's a sign up that says for parcels for sale. Would this be a part of that?
Mr. Antonucci?
That would be, we're looking at the west side at Martha and Market.
Right.
I think
That
so.
would be, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's up for sale right now. Further questions or comments? Very good. We'll now move on to the balance of the agenda, of which I'll request time. And we can move into the new list of legislation. Item number 3, authorizing the execution of a development agreement with RMMLLB and the Kenmore Neighborhood Alliance, KNA, providing for the acquisition, sale, and redevelopment of property as part of the Great Streets Akron Initiative.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is actually for a development agreement, passage of a development agreement in order to help one of the businesses in the Kenmore district, also on one of the great streets. What this will do, generally, it will create a TIF, a tax increment finance, which we all know generally is used for larger companies, but in this specific instance, we have a developer who wants to redevelop this building and actually add a business to it, which will be a coffee shop. And in order for him to provide the financing and get what he needs to do this, if we provide a TIF, which the city has already been able to get into the chain of title, then we can provide him additional assistance on the project through this tax increment financing.
Thank you. Questions or comments, Ms. Amobian?
Could you, Mr.
Beckert?
Mr. Brent, can you explain how you are able to do this?
How what?
How you're able to do this? You said this is, I guess, unusual, and it's not a large company.
No,
So how does it work?
The tax increment financing is, what we have to do is we have to take a look at the property, see what the property is really worth. And if it's at its sort of low value before it would be renovated, then we have to see, okay, if he puts a renovation in there, what can that value increase? That increase in value is how we can create this TIF, because it'll be an increase in real estate taxes, which essentially is brought back to the developer to help him develop that building. That's how we do it. If the city is in the chain of title, or gets in the chain of title, then we're able to put a little more funding back into the project itself rather than into just public improvements.
So how does the city get into the chain of title?
Basically, what we do is we just do a quitclaim deed over at the county, and we jump into the chain of title, and then we jump right back out. We put the title right back into the developer's name.
And what size business are we talking about here? What is it, the value of this business, eventually?
The size of the business is going to be, it's a $200,000 investment,
Okay.
is what the developer is going to put in it. And he's going to do a coffee shop. But $200,000 into that building is quite a bit of an investment into the Kenmore area, and it's really going to start that revolution and revitalization of the Kenmore area, and we have to continue to work on that with this Great Streets initiative and everything else, and every business in there, in order for this to work and be successful.
And how many employees are we talking about, potentially?
Do we know how many employees?
Tina, would you like to say?
2 employees?
Well, we have a representative from the Kenmore area that would like to, who's been actively involved with this. If you'd like to come forward, Tina Boys.
Hi, thank you, committee. I appreciate it. So since the Better Block occurred in 2017, we've been doing research to find out what are the businesses that our residents want and need. And the number one thing that they say are restaurants and a coffee shop. We do not have third spaces in our neighborhood. There are not places where people of various socioeconomic strata can sit down, have a cup of coffee, see their friends, and possibly even be waited on by a resident of the community. So we as Kenmore Neighborhood Alliance are purchasing the building in order to redevelop it, to bring a local resident in in to operate a coffee shop. So we will actually be the owners and developers of the property. I just want to say thank you to the mayor's economic development staff. We were not expecting this, and the fact that something that's used on this large scale for places like, what's going up on Romig Road can be applied to a neighborhood business that's going to be catalytic to the boulevard, I really appreciate that. So just to kind of clear it up, we would be the developers and the owners of the property, and we would then lease it to a resident to operate a coffee shop. And he will employ 2 people, 2 full-time employees.
2 employees. The value of there's a building on the property now,
Yes.
and the value of the building and the property now is what?
I'm not sure what the county records say. Is that in the agreement? I'm not sure. It's in like we're purchasing it for $60,000.
But it's after value, value is what you look at. Adele, do you have something to say?
Yes, just a couple things. Mrs. Amobi, you asked a good question. Why would we go to this amount of trouble for a small project? I mean, normally,
I want to be corrected because
for a smaller project.
That's the thing that the people would get. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I
But it's
just want to know how we're able to do that.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I do want to point out that it's not something we would normally do for a for-profit organization because it's quite a bit of paperwork for a small amount of return. But as you well know, I think it's been clear from the success that we've had with the Great Street so far that people are excited about seeing their local downtowns be a place that they can walk to and enjoy. So we're never going to be building $20 million buildings in those neighborhoods. I mean, well, other than schools and libraries as we've done, but this is really a more like the right kind of project that has to happen. So this particular project is about a $200,000 project. Again, out of my personal pocket, that's a lot of money, but in the great schemes of developers, that's kind of a small project, but a nonprofit is doing this. They did receive a variety of money from different kinds of places, and they had a $30,000 gap to make it work. And the TIF actually works out to $30,000. So this is going to make this, although it's a small project in the grand schemes of development projects, it's a huge catalytic project on Kenmore Boulevard because of what we think it will continue. It'll be a step forward for people.
Right. Let me, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, my questions have more to do with how we can make this happen in other communities, not so much that anything is wrong with this. I like this concept. What I'm trying to understand is she's saying that the value of what they're purchasing, the $65,000 is what they're purchasing. How do we get to the $200,000 that I keep hearing? I'm trying to understand.
Well, that is sort of, that's the sad state of how expensive it is to bring some of these buildings up to the standard that we want. So they're going to buy the building for $60,000, I think, right? $60,000, yes. And then they're going to put in about $140,000 worth of remodeling, rehab, and equipment in order to make it both a home, I believe, on one, right, for KNA, and a coffee shop that will serve the neighborhood. Then the revenues from the coffee shop will help, sustain it. And the key to having this happen in other neighborhoods is having somebody like a KNA who's willing to sort of be the risk taker, who then finds a developer like Todd Ederer who's willing to be flexible with smaller projects and say, I'm going to have to bring together a whole bunch of little funding sources to make this happen, and I'm going to be patient while you, KNA, beat the trees to make that happen. And that's really the key.
Yeah. Let me see if you can help me and walk me through this as if I'm totally naive about purchasing anything. They're going to purchase the building for $60,000, and the city comes in and does what in order to bring it? Because it sounds like you're going to bring the value up so they can then go to a bank or somewhere to get their $140,000 or whatever they need to do the business that they want to do. So that's what I'm trying to understand is.
So it works like this. The value of this building is $60,000. you know, and it's 60,000 because that's what the, you know, that's all they can get for it.
Sure.
Because of whatever shape it's in.
Sure.
You know, whatever work it needs to be done.
Right.
Whatever the location is and the stuff around it. Then K&A will actually be bringing the value of the building up because of the investment of $140,000 worth of work. Then the county, after that work is done, is going to look at that building and say, you know, you upgraded HVAC, electric, you know, plumbing, fixed a new roof, had new windows, you know, tuck pointed the chimneys. You did all these things to bring what was kind of a building that was needing some serious love. You've now brought that building into usable, valuable space now.
Sure.
That new value is not going to be $200,000 because a lot of the things that you do when you fix an old building it's almost like there's actually some negative value there. Like you don't increase the value if you have to like take away rust. When you take away the rust, you now just have something. So K&A is actually bringing the value up by doing this investment. When the investment goes up, then we'll capture that.
But Mr. Brent said something about the city would do a quick sale and give it back to them.
Okay, so that is just
that
part
comes
of,
before?
so that's just part of every single tax increment financing, 5709.41.
Does it happen before he invests the $140,000?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
And this is
that's
very
what I wanna
similar
know.
to
That's what I wanna
Goodyear,
know.
the mustard seed,
Right.
the air dock, all those.
That's the point I wanted to know. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Now, this, without question, is the first, it seems, and it meets all of those expectations, I think, with regards to the grade streets and the flexibility that you guys are showing in terms of making sure that these little neighborhood business districts are becoming successful and kind of broadening the tools in the toolbox to enhance that and listening to the community in terms of what they would like. So this is exciting. It's very encouraging to see the Great Streets Initiative going in this direction. Mr. Swirsky?
Yeah, obviously the kind of fancy financing that you've sort of arranged is important, but to Mr. Fusco's point, the fact that the need was based on a survey, on information where the residents and the local businesses were systematically listened to, I think that's also a great example that could be helpful for other business districts around the city. It's really something that the people who live there want, and the city is providing expertise and financing to help make sure it happens. And it's a great collaborative effort. And I appreciate your initiative on this, Mrs. Doran.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I could make a comment about some of the staffing too, but I won't.
No, congratulations to the Kenmore Neighborhood Alliance. You guys have done, Ms. Amobian.
Yeah, I want us to be clear, at least I want to be clear, that as a first, then we can do a second with other ingredients, other relevant factors. And I think that is what I want to make sure that we consider. As we've been creative with this project, we can be creative with another project. And that's what I want to make sure of.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
10 of these all over town, or 11. Mr. Segedy?
Yeah, there are 11 altogether, and absolutely, that's something that, the administration, we want to help small business and entrepreneurs, and we want to provide, as was said earlier, those day-to-day services that residents need, both as places of employment as well as goods and services in the neighborhood. So yes,
Good.
this is definitely a tool that we could employ in all of the Great Streets areas.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Further questions or comments? I'd like to see a recommendation for suspension of the rules of the favorable report.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. That's all to come before this planning committee, although I'd like to entertain a motion we accept the minutes of the previously held meeting. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And I have one abstention. Mr. Clerk?
Who abstained?
That'd be a Mr. No.
On the minutes, correct?
Okay, very good. We're adjourned.